looking at generation and there's the issue about transmission. Now, when you look at power, of course, most of you will understand, you talk about KenGen, we'll talk about Kenya Power, but today we want to focus a bit more on Ketraco. That's the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, and we'll talk about the transmission lines. I'm sure most of you, you're keen, you saw an ad there looking at the 400 kilovolts of a transmission line that will be launched as the first in the country. But before we get into that, we're honored to be joined by none other than the CEO, who is Fernandes Barasa. Thank you so much for speaking with us. So just break it down. Most people will be confused and look at what exactly does Ketraco do?
I just want to highlight the supply chain of energy. We have many players. We have Kenya Power that does distribution. KenGen, of course, will do the generation. And Ketraco will do the transmission. Now, for power to reach to KPLC for distribution, KenGen will do the generation, and Ketraco is now the company that will do the transmission. It's basically the company that will be doing the transport of power from the generation point to the distribution. Besides evacuation, we also meant to evacuate and also meant to strengthen the network. So we do evacuation, strengthening of the national grid, and providing reliability of power.
Yeah, speaking of reliability, of course, that to our viewers, that will mean that you ensure you have power and the power is sustainable for that matter.
Exactly.
There's been an issue of where you have power, and especially not only for the residents, but also for industries, it's not quite reliable, shall I say. You cannot really quite trust and ensure that you, without outages, you know?
Well, first and foremost, when you look at reliability, it's achieved by us putting across high voltage lines. For example, the line we just energized yesterday, the Suswa-Isinya 400 kV transmission line. It provides reliability in the sense that the voltages that we are pushing are very high. And then number two, it is going to also evacuate power that is required for industries. When you look at the line we energized yesterday, that is Nairobi Suswa-Isinya line, this line is going to make sure that the power that is being required by the cement factories, the steel factories in Athi River is actually there, and it's reliable.
You know, the concern amongst the business community is always looking at the cost of power, and especially that now reliability aspect where, yes, indeed, you'll pay for the power, but are you sure that you'll have it tomorrow? How has it been, especially in your dealings with especially the business community?
Well, actually, when you look at the meetings we've had with even the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, the main concern with the business community is about stability and reliability. Because when you have power that is not reliable, definitely even hospitals may not be very comfortable to establish the power their businesses. So the way Ketraco comes in is to provide that reliability by increasing the network. And this is achieved through construction of high voltage transmission lines.
Speaking of
where
transmission,
high voltage,
yeah, okay,
we are talking about 132 kV as the minimum, up to 500.
All right. Speaking of that transmission lines, you have a target of 7,000 kilometers of transmission lines by the year 2020. Where are we in this target, and what are we looking towards, especially looking at matters of regional integration?
Well, so far for the last 8 years, we have brought on board 1,400 kilometers of transmission lines. And the target we have for the next 3 years is 4,500. This definitely will be achieved by the regional interconnectors. So far, we have 3 regional interconnectors, one moving all the way from Ethiopia to Kenya, terminating at Luangalani. These are 600 plus kilometers of transmission line. We're also doing a regional interconnector from Kenya here, that is Lesos, up to Tororo. 312 kilometers is a 400 kV.
Does that mean that we, as a country, we have a lot more that now we're also trading with our regional counterparts?
Well, the essence of regional interconnection basically is to facilitate regional power trade. For example, Ethiopia is very strong in hydro. Right now, we have a challenge on hydro. So if our transmission line from Ethiopia is ready, we can evacuate or rather import power from Ethiopia. We have also a lot of power in geothermal. Once our Kenya-Tanzania line is ready, definitely we can also trade with our counterparts.
All right.
So the regional interconnection is basically for regional power trade, both importing and exporting.
Coming back home, of course, your big project right now is the Suswa senior project, but now going forward, I don't know, what are some of the other areas or some of the regions in the country that will be looking towards supplying power into?
Well, maybe just before I go to the other areas, I think it's good just to talk about this Suswa senior transmission line. It's actually the first 400 kV line to be energized in Kenya and Eastern Central Africa. This line is a line that will provide stability within Nairobi. So far, we have connected from Suswa to Isinya up to Athi River, around 60 kilometers from Isinya. And then going forward, of course, in the next 3 months or so, we'll now be able to push power to Mombasa on our main 400 kV Mombasa-Nairobi line.
All right.
Now, other areas which we are looking at is we are having a 400 kV line from Olkaria, Lesos to Kisumu, just to address the challenges of high voltage problems, especially in the western region. So Olkaria, Lesos, Kisumu will deal with that. Moving power from Olkaria to western. Then we're also looking at areas like Narok, Bomet. These also provide redundancy to provide power again from Olkaria to the western region, because at the moment we have some challenges of power shortages in western.
Okay.
Besides western, of course, we have also gone through Laban,
okay.
Which we also energized a high voltage line there. And for the first time, we also put power in northern region through our Kindaruma Mwingi, Garissa.
I didn't want you to touch on this because I know, sir, you've also, as Ketraco, looked towards power transmission to the standard gauge relay line, but I don't want you to talk about that. That was about 200 megawatts of power. But, well, speaking of matters infrastructure, that has been none other than the CEO of Ketraco, that's Fernandes Barasa, just talking about matters regional integration, of course, infrastructure, and a lot more, especially on electricity transmission. Now,